Welcome back to the CineClub podcast. I'm Jake.
I'm Billy.
I'm Dion.
And I'm Rhys.
This week we'll be discussing the work of a true master of Japanese animation, Katsuhiro Otomo, but more specifically last week's screening chosen by Gangping, Steamboy, and Akira, arguably the most important anime film ever made.
So, what do we think of Steamboy?
I think it was quite good, but it's very bloated at times.
Yeah.
It's just like there's such cool concepts in it, but the pacing just drags and drags so much. It's only, what was it, 2 hours long?
Yeah.
But I felt like I was checking my watch all the time. When it would feel like it was the end of the film, but then
And then something else.
yeah, something else would happen.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, yeah. It's one of those things where it was like, yeah, it was just, there was so much to like about it, but then for every one thing that you like, there was just not enough going on. Like, if it could work on the sort of concepts and design alone, it would have been, really, really good. But I just think the fact that it sort of tries to do similar stuff to Akira, but then it's like Akira, but if it was steampunk, or like Akira if it was this, or Akira if it was that, I think it buckles under the weight of that legacy a little bit, and it's sort of almost trying too hard to be like what came before, whilst sort of also missing the point, and like you say, just not really having enough plot going on. Like, it was just like too many things kept happening that felt like they didn't really need to, and it just should have stopped at some point before it just kept going until you get bored.
Yeah. Steampunk is like the weakest of the punks, I think. It's like restricted to that like era in history of like the Victorian period. But I think this one like kind of plays around that quite well. It doesn't go, oh, we've got all these sci-fi concepts, but we're just in the Victorian era. It kind of works within the technological limitations.
Yeah,
mostly.
I know what you mean.
Until we get the big flying ball at the end. Like all the like robot soldiers and the like tanks on legs and that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's just such a cool like concept for like anything but a film.
Yeah.
Like, if you want like just like a short animation just to that battle scene.
A short animation, or like a really, really good novel. I feel like
a serialized manga,
like a serial, yeah. It would
Probably a
have been
TV show would have made it more better.
Oh, anything like that, and I think it would be really, really popular now. But I think because this is what I mean, I feel like that was one of those elements where it was probably written for one of those formats, but because all the sort of money men were like, oh my god, you made like Akira, like the highest selling anime film ever, let's do another anime film just like that. But yeah, no, it should have been something else. I do agree. I think that would benefit it massively.
I think for me, I feel I'm going to be a bit harsh to the film, but honestly, I just didn't like a lot of it.
It really bothered you, which is surprising for an anime film. But
I think what shocked me was that I don't know if I was in the right mood for it, but I just felt like it was going on and on and on.
Yeah.
And then the dub, but like everything else.
I don't think watching it dubbed helped.
No.
I thought that the celebrity voices, if you want to call them then, Alfred Molina and Patrick Stewart, they weren't too bad.
They were good,
they were fine.
Yeah,
It was just that I know a lot of the voice actors in that because of like I'm a big dub fan, but like you can know they weren't doing good British accents, and it just.
Yeah,
I remember telling to Jake
one.
every minute, going, that doesn't sound
well,
right.
I think it's one of those films where it's like, and this, you get that problem in Akira as well. When you watch it in English, the Japanese sort of screaming, which sounds kind of normal when you're watching an anime, is fair enough. But when you're watching the dub and it's like this actor trying to do a British accent, but it sounds more Australian, they're all like, what are you doing? And they're like, like constant that kind of thing. It's a bit. Yeah, I think that bothers us. Anything that, Alfred Molina and Patrick Stewart were all right because they sort of played off each other quite well. But I mean, maybe the sub might have made it better. But
yeah,
it's better than the original Akira dub. Oof.
Ah, true.
Well, going back to that whole how bloated it felt, Gangping did say that, which we didn't know before going in, that it had all the production hell where it was just stuck. Basically between a rock and a hard place with, and then you said about the money men. I feel like they're having a more celebrity cast as well.
Yeah,
it is basically like saying, oh, Akira was really successful, let's just do that again.
Throw all our money into trying to capture that again, whilst borrowing from bits and pieces. Because I think this was around the time when Disney were dubbing Studio Ghibli films, and they were getting like proper actors to do the English voices.
Yeah,
So I feel like
Liam Neeson and Ponyo.
Yes.
yeah, stuff like that.
Christian
like Christian
Bale.
Bale as Howl and that kind of thing. So they probably were like, okay, yeah, they're doing that. Let's do that. And Akira was really good, so let's do that. And all the while sort of leaving the vision in the dust a little bit, which is a shame because the vision itself was really cool, and there are moments of it that I thought were really good. But
Oh yeah. I think for me though, well, I think I see where you guys are going. I just couldn't get into it as much as I wish I
yeah,
did.
in the most basic sense, it bothered me that there wasn't very much jetpacking in it because you see all the posters. It's him flying about on a jetpack, and he doesn't actually do that until like the last 10 minutes. Whereas like in Akira, you see the bike on the poster, that's literally like the first thing they do. It's like straight away, and the bikes are always there throughout the whole thing. So I thought, oh, it's going to be like that. They'll all be like flying around on jetpacks and stuff. But that was like this really novel concept that they sort of like left right till the end.
Yeah.
And I did like the moment where they had the steam powered like dudes like flying about dropping bombs, and they were like, oh my god, a flying military, that's like impossible. And it's like, and that was quite funny because it was like, oh yeah, like imagine the armed forces putting people in the sky. It was like, that was quite cool. But then it's like, right, okay, I get it, crack on, get them on a jetpack, let's see some some of that. But
to be fair though, once he got on that jetpack, he did not get off for the rest of the film.
No, that's true. Yeah,
He was
that
glued
whole
to
sequence.
Can you even call it a jetpack? It looked more like a glider.
It was
for most
more,
of it.
it wasn't really a jetpack.
Yeah.
He just kind of stood on it and like held on and flew about. But
You did get a jetpack eventually, and then that was in the last 5 minutes though, so
right
it doesn't
at the
really make
end,
much of a difference anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it was. It was weird. And I was saying that the dude who wouldn't shave his hair, that bothered us as well.
Oh yeah, the
He's
evil
like
family opera
lost
man.
half of his face. He's got like a couple of rags of hair. It's like you just shave it off.
Phantom of the
Yeah,
Opera
you just
without the
give up
hair
at that
shaving.
point.
Just give up. Don't even hold on to it.
It's
like,
over.
You know, it's
Is it over for bro? Just
Not to mention,
Bro.
it bothered me that he was basically an identical character design as the Colonel from
Yes.
Akira. They literally
Yes.
two of them look identical, and even I was like, hang on a minute, that is just the same, literally the same character, but like with a mask and weird hair instead. So yeah,
like I said once I finished watching Akira, I said to myself, you could tell he was the villain from the start because they both got a really small face in comparison to their head.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're like 90% chin.
yeah, that's one thing I do quite like about both films and just like Otomo's style in general is the fact they don't really have the like anime designs. Like they don't really have like the big anime eyes. They've got like sort of quite Western looking sort of faces, and everything about the design is quite.
It's similar to Ghibli's designs, where it's like
exactly
very
that,
much it isn't generic anime style we see.
It's like its
now.
own thing,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And like, yeah. So anyway, it was a good film.
Yeah, there's definitely style comparisons to be found between them. But Rhys, you are the one who has seen it most recently.
Okay.
Having watched it specifically for this episode. So, what did you think of it?
What do I think of Akira? I think it is a near perfect film. I see why people watch this and are like, oh, wow, Japan's got some good stuff going on. Let's bring all that over here. And then, of course, we get like 4 kids dubs of One Piece and all that, which is just its own kettle of fish, right? But I really like it. It does the world building of like this sci-fi dystopia in like the first 10 minutes. It manages to do it well because it only focuses on the bits we need to care about. Like at the very beginning of the film, we get seeing old Tokyo getting blown up in World War III, right?
Yeah.
Which is a massive event, and it's just kind of shown to us. It's not really mentioned. Just like you're left to connect the dots. I really like that, and they only show us parts of the world we need to know about. Like I don't need to know what some random like dude's doing for his day job. I need to know about the biker gangs. I need to know about the psychic children. I need to know about how there's an evil government and all the riots.
It feels like the world building is absolutely brilliant in that.
It's
film.
top notch, isn't it? Because it's the simplest thing. It's just that opening shot, and then like cuts to black, and you think it's black, and then zooms out, and then it's like the crater, and then it's just so cool. Like I just love that whole start of it, and then obviously it goes into the whole bike chase thing, which is like, you know, the greatest
It's so
stuff.
funny that you guys all watched this recently and stuff, and I haven't watched this in ages, and I still remember every little detail of this film.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't care. I must have seen it like 10, 20 times by now. I've seen it so many times because I like fully hyperfixated on it in the pandemic, and it was an obsession really, but it's just so good. I just love it. So yeah. But I'm glad you liked it. It's cool, and I just like the fact that surface level, it's like just a really well animated film with loads of like really cool looking sequences, and it's one of those ones where you can watch it and still enjoy it just looking at it. But then it's also got the whole like moral, it's like got that Godzilla message, which I think is probably why it resonated with me so much, because at the time I'd already loved Godzilla, and then I was like, oh well, yeah. And then this is all about like the sort of post-war like meddling with powers beyond your understanding, that kind of thing, just with little wrinkly psychic children instead of giant lizards.
I really didn't like those psychic kids. Like I thought they were very uncomfortable to look at.
Yeah,
like
I
it's like an optical illusion, isn't it?
Really, like, it doesn't seem that odd when you've seen it a few times, but then I forget people who are watching it for the first time thinking, oh yeah, it's just like, you know, but it's like, oh no, yeah, wrinkly psychic children.
Yeah,
but there you go.
Yeah, seems to be a trend of some of Japan's most popular entertainment exports for some reason are all tied to some sort of nuclear annihilation, whether that's Akira with the start of it with World War III, the big bomb, or Godzilla commenting on post-war attitudes, or Grave of the Firefly, and so on and so forth.
Bit of a theme, on this podcast, isn't there?
Maybe that's a bit of a hint for what's to come as well. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Oh, dearie me.
I think like you can watch like half of all anime, and they'll start with like 50% of the world was destroyed by a massive explosion.
Pretty
10
much,
years
yeah,
ago.
exactly. Because even Ava's like that as well. Ava starts with that.
Ava starts with a third of the world being blown up.
Pretty much all the
the rest of it gets blown up.
Right, yeah.
And then the rebuild is like, oh yeah, every country is kind of fine except like these handfuls, and it's just like, oh.
Well, there's the fan theory as well. Obviously, it probably applies to the game as well, not just the anime, but that the Pokemon games follow up on a mass war.
Oh, really?
I don't know much about it, but it's basically the reasoning that they give is that's why you see more kids than adults in the Pokemon games.
Because they're all
adults are dead.
Wow.
This is like this is a lost situation where it's all the trees.
And then a few of the games that do make allusions to some sort of big conflict and war.
So
but there you go. It's just going back to that
previous generation of politicians were all fighting to be the very best that no one ever was.
And they took it a bit too far.
Took it a bit too far.
Do you know what's funny about Akira though? Of how much it predicted a lot of events which was going to happen in 2019, but it feels like a lot of it has now gone off to 2020 with the Olympics going on and stuff in Japan, where it was like a year late.
There's a sign where it's the Tokyo Olympics are meant to happen in 2020, but then they get cancelled in Akira, which is obviously, when you watched it at the time I did, I was like, that's quite bizarre. And then you've got the whole, I mean, there's all the like student protests and everything like that. I like the fact that it's all set against this backdrop of like, you know, the government being completely useless and all these, like the whole city's just like being ripped apart, even though it looks... It's like it's that Blade Runner Metropolis thing, isn't it? Where the city looks cool as hell, like it's all shiny and rebuilt and everything, but it's deep down it's just full of crime and scum and like sort of politicians not being able to do anything about it.
They do that in Steamboy again as well.
Yeah,
you don't get much perspective of like being on the street, but you see where Robert Louis Stevenson turns up in his MCU cameo, and then, but like you think, oh, he's a real guy. They're probably going to make him quite nice. But then as it goes on, he's basically got no one he can trust. Steamboy, that is. I've forgotten his first name, so he's going to be dubbed Ray. That's his name. Ray. That's a very on the nose name,
isn't it?
But Robert Louis Stevenson and the British government betray him. These whatever you want to call them, the conglomerate that comes in betrays him. It's sort of, it's just as slimy as Akira.
Yeah, no, totally. And
just steampunk instead of cyberpunk.
I'd forgot about that, and it's also because it's a Japanese thing, but it's like it's set in Britain.
Yeah,
so it's kind of like pure British in it. So they're all backstabbing each other.
So funny because I didn't know if it was going to be all set in England. So that when we saw the attack, like London, like that.
Where's she going? She's got a Blackpool. It's like you're living in Manchester.
It's like
so bizarre.
Seeing another culture's like view of us.
Yeah,
it's so strange.
It is really weird, but. I know I didn't even realise that was really the way it was, but...
I'm not really surprised with the representation, because a lot of foreign media, when you look at it, it's a quaint little place, and then this is just like a bit of a technological twist on it, which is what steampunk is.
Tea and crumpets, and then the magic ball of steam rocks up, and the next thing you know, he's jetpacking about.
They are literally having tea and crumpets in one of the scenes, aren't they?
Oh,
The Admiral.
Which I did think was quite funny.
And they're having like, what's the fish called? They're having like a pretty much British like fish dinner, whatever you call it.
Oh, because there's like the whole thing where they bring the... Yeah, when they're having the dinner and the kid leaves because his dad rocks up again or whatever. And anyway, yeah. But it is weird because I've never really seen anything like that, like a Japanese anime trying to do like Britain or really just anywhere other than Japan.
There's a few anime which done that, but I think I haven't seen that done like ever like proper like in Steamboy. With like Back Butler and stuff, it's very much like they try and do it just because of the type.
Yeah, because of the sort of convenience of the concept of butlers being more of a British thing. Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. And I mean, obviously, cyberpunk versus steampunk, like aesthetic-wise, I think I'm definitely more partial to the Akira style of everything being like a sort of grimy, neon, motorbike-filled sort of nightmare, but it's so cool.
I think most people are, from like how prominent cyberpunk has been in popular culture and still is, while the sort of steampunk culture sort of faded into quite a niche market.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember the last time I saw something that was new and steampunk centered.
Did we invent steampunk, like the aesthetic? Because I feel like it is. I just associate it with Britain, because the only place you really see it is like either when you go to Comic Cons or like Whitby, you see a lot of steampunk. That's all I can think of when I think of the aesthetic. I'm just thinking of like the sort of Whitby weekends with the people with their like cog hats and their goggles and everything.
The
and
thing that comes to mind with me is that there's a restaurant in Orlando.
Oh yeah,
it's like called the Chocolate Emporium or something, and it's like it's a massive just steampunk building.
Really,
it's got like big billows of steam coming out of the top of it, and
that's cool.
It's all the staff and the characters walking around, and they've got the steampunk costumes on and all that.
That's really cool.
That's probably the only time I've seen anything new to do with steampunk in the past 10 years.
I think for me, I know it's a bit later, like Bioshock Infinite was a good example of steampunk.
Bioshock is a good point. Yeah, I never really
But Bioshock's old news now, isn't it?
Yeah,
even that is like a sort of dead franchise. But you're right, that is after Steamboy. But yeah, stuff like Cyberpunk Edgerunners and Cyberpunk the game in general very much has made that really relevant again, which is...
I think the resurgence of Blade Runner too with
that's true. Yeah. See, more people need to watch Akira, because it's like it's just entirely that kind of style of thing, but like, and it is very trendy at the minute. But
it is just just with the Akira slide. That's like it's completely trend-setting.
It is totally. Well, I think I don't know. It's just something about it. I think it's so detailed, and it's so much. Like I say, it's the fact that it's like it doesn't really look like an anime, and yet it also is like the perfect example of an anime. Like, it's kind of a contradiction in itself, but like, and I wouldn't have said it was like particularly accessible, because like I say, the first few times I watched it, I just didn't get it.
Oh yeah.
It took a couple of rewatches before something clicked, and I was like, oh, that's what it means. And it's like, and it suddenly was like, I think the manga helped with that, to be honest, because not nobody, but a lot of people, I didn't know it was based on a manga until quite recently, and the manga is very, very, very good, if not better than the actual film.
Really?
Oh,
yeah, the anime takes out like a good handful of stuff.
It really does. It's like the Scott Pilgrim effect, where like the film started getting made before they'd finished the manga. So the end of the film, or sort of the manga's version of those events, happen at the halfway point of the manga. So everything after that, it becomes like this Mad Max cyberpunk like dystopian sort of thing, where all the characters are like kicking about, and basically all of the sort of the wasters who've survived, who are like living in this land, they all like worship Tetsuo like a god.
That was really
so
strange,
cool.
though.
And he's like this, and he's got like a little PR team, and he's like and he goes out and like does all of these things to prove he's a god. So he punched a hole in the moon for me in Scott Pilgrim.
Yes,
Tetsuo does that. That's
No
the thing.
way.
He does that in the manga to prove all these people he's like this all powerful god that they think he is. And it's so good. It's
God.
I can't sing its praises enough. I strongly recommend, if you've got even the most remote interest in the film, checking out the manga, because it's so good. So and it makes you like the film more as well simultaneously. It kind of makes you appreciate the little details that did stay in. Yeah, totally. I guess we've already sort of talked about this, Dion, about how accurate were the predictions. I'm trying to think what else has happened recently that.
Well, the world hasn't been destroyed yet.
That's true. The world hasn't been destroyed. The governments are still fighting over each other. Yeah, we're almost there. We've not got cool bikes.
No nukes.
I want the things as well. I mean, everybody talks about the bikes, but you know those little flying pods they have in the tunnels, like underground, where they're going through the tunnels, and he's on the little with like a machine gun on the front. They're really cool as well.
What else do we need?
It'd make it a lot more convenient to commute to university with one.
I'm flying about me little pod.
A good bar, that's what we need. With the jukebox.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Haruki Ya is basically just that AFK to us. I mean, you know, we just need motorbikes and
jukebox and a proper good jukebox.
And a jukebox, yeah, that's true. We are missing the cool
No
CD
one's went
jukebox.
like Cyber Psycho and attacked the bar staff either. So that's quite a good thing.
Sunderland chasing
that's
down.
True. With these asking for these capsules.
Just walking around Sunderland city centre, you get the full on Akira!
Leave me alone.
And
Leave me alone, man. Leave me alone, man.
Holding his head.
the Sunderland equivalent of the clowns come and like
Christ.
beat you up. you load of gods. It's probably going to happen to me later on. Yeah, this jacket.
So we're just trying to attack you in the bar.
For context, Jake is currently dressed up like Canada.
Yeah, close enough. I've got the jacket.
I can't believe you call him Dr. Eggman though.
Honestly, I know some of the abuse I've got today. But yeah, it's I like it. I dig it. It's very much a party trick though. It's not something I could wear as a casual jacket.
Yeah, just one more thing about like Akira is how it like sticks to familiar concepts when it's doing its like setup and everything basically. Like all the stuff that happens in the film, it's very sci-fi based. It's always like techno biker gangs, psychic children and that. But it's all based in like reality. Like we have biker gangs in reality. We have
totally.
useless dystopian governments in reality, although they're not, to our knowledge, making psychic children.
Well, we don't know that. But I know what you mean. Yeah,
you never know.
It's a very good like metaphor.
Area 51 boy.
That's also just reminded us. I'm just going to do this quick, but did you know that Shaun of the Dead wouldn't exist without Akira?
Elaborate.
Yeah, please. How?
And I'm not 100% sure, but I'm fairly sure the first time Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright met was at a preview screening of Akira in London before it got fully released on VHS. There was like little indie cinemas started showing it when Island World got the rights to distribute it in the UK. And I'm pretty sure that was like the first time they were together. They both saw Akira together.
Wow.
And Simon Cowell, he's got a tattoo now of it. So,
well, that's a pretty nice little tidbit to end it on.
I just thought I'd throw that in there. Well, I think that is all the uncontrollable psychic power we have time for. Remember to get in touch with us at cineclub.podcast@sparksunderland.com. Do you prefer a steampunk or cyberpunk aesthetic personally? And would you rather have Ray's jetpack or Canada's bike?
And a recent addition, you can follow us at the CineClub podcast _spark on Instagram. It's another way to contact us, and it's another way to keep up to date on all the latest episodes.
As always, this episode was recorded and produced by us, the Sunderland University students, and edited by Emily Main. A special thanks to Steve Cannon, Barbara Sadler, and Richard Berry. A reminder that our 4 bikers this week have consisted of me, Rhys,
Dion,
Billy,
and me, Jake. This has been a CineClub production for Spark. Thanks for listening.